We got the Blue Crowbar winning team here. Tara, kick us off. Tell us
Okay.
about who this team's awesome. UNC based, I believe, all the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Tar
Go
Heels.
Heels. Go Heels. Hi everyone. I'm Tara. I am a senior at UNC Chapel Hill, as Gino just said. I am originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, and on this campaign, I worked as a copywriter. And we kind of had Juliette as an art director, which she can talk a little bit more about now.
Hey guys, I'm Juliette. I am a junior at UNC studying advertising and studio art. I'm originally from Pompano Beach, Florida, which I just say Miami usually because no one knows where that is. But just right around there. And yeah, like Sarah said, I did the art direction for this project. And it was amazing. I'm excited to talk about it. Go ahead, Anna Wesley.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, Gino. But also thank you for having this contest. I think we all kind of share the same sentiment in that this campaign, like creating this one, was a lot different than the other campaigns that we've worked on because, I mean, this one isn't really for a grade. And we definitely joked about maybe getting on the leaderboard. But at the end of the day, I think what really stood out to me, and I'm sure y'all too, is that we just were having so much fun with it. And it really solidified the idea that I want to go into advertising. So yeah, thanks for that.
Boom. That's what we like
Um,
to hear.
yeah.
Real quick, each of you go back, start from the top. What roles do you want to get into? Like copywriter, art director, account. What are you thinking? Like what's the dream entry level job?
Yeah, so I graduate in May and I do want to break into copywriting. So it definitely worked out that I was copywriter for this campaign. So now this can go in my portfolio, which is awesome. So yeah, it's kind of like what I focused on for this.
Boom. Boom. Well, hopefully this campaign will help you break into copywriting. Juliette, art direction for you? It seems like design or art direction?
Art direction. Yeah, so I actually originally started at UNC in business, and then I saw that there were numbers involved, and I said, no, I'm going to do advertising. Yeah. And I really liked the creative side. And so I fell in love with art direction. I actually work at the Daily Tar Heel, which is a student-led newspaper in Chapel Hill. Yeah. And I do the account managing position, account executive at the Daily Tar Heel. And while I love doing that side, the more businessy side, I still just am drawn to the more artsy, creative, like throw everything on a sheet of paper, throw the words out, brainstorm with a group. And that's, I think that's what makes me feel alive at the end of the day. So art direction it is.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. I guess I'll go. My name is Anna Wesley. I'm also a senior like Tara. I major in advertising and PR at UNC. I am an aspiring account manager. Currently, kind of like Juliette, I work at an off branch of the Daily Tar Heel called the 1893 Brand Studio. So we're working more on campaigns and advertising for local businesses. And I'm like an account executive for that. And that really has also kind of helped me discover my passion.
That's good that you're getting that real client experience on campus. Thas, are you upset nobody said strategy here?
I am a little bit, but you know what? I get it. These are all great areas to dive into, and we need more amazing writers and art directors and account folks. So everybody makes the wheel work. So I'm happy. I'm always happy to
Well,
hear.
maybe we can convince Anna to consider strategy, right? I think
Yeah.
because your career, Thas, has been pretty strategic focused, ranging from a variety of great agencies, including TBWA Shy Day, BBH, Deutsch, and now where you were actually, according to your LinkedIn here, Chief Strategy Officer at Omelet. You've been there for 8 years. You rose up the ranks, and now you're the CEO. Is that accurate?
It's very accurate. So yeah, I came over to Omelet as the chief strategy officer. I have started to learn more about the world of account management and truly just try to zoom out on my career and start doing more business development and all of that, which kind of parlayed into where I am now, which is the CEO.
Love it. Love it. So Cooper, Do you want to explain why we're here today? I guess give us a background on the Crowbar Awards for those that are just tuning in. Maybe it's like their friends, maybe it's their family, moms, dads, whatever it might be, new to this, never heard of the Crowbar Awards. What does that mean?
It's not obvious that a crowbar is to break you into advertising and marketing.
Ah, that makes sense.
So the Crowbar Awards is a huge initiative, I think, for all of us at Breaking and Entering and Gino and myself to help reflect the talent that's coming up within the industry, right? We have our podcast. We talk to a lot of folks and get little nuggets out of them that we can then pass down. But how can we actually do more to get out, talk to students, folks who are looking to break in, and give them the stage to talk about who they are, what their dreams are, and what they're going to bring to the world of advertising and marketing. So we launch a new brief every quarter. Not totally on each quarter. We try to stay with the school schedule moving forward now, for students to give their best foot forward on the work. Some we give a little bit more strategic help from our side. Others we kind of let the teams go and build out their own strategies based on a problem. We sift through all the entries, and we bring on incredible guests at the end of each quarter to help us judge and then chat with the winning team who gets the Blue Crowbar.
Blue's the best in show. Then there's gold, silver, and bronze. Blue, you come on the show. That's what we have today. And you're going to get sent actual physical blue crowbars if you want to break into an agency. You know my thoughts on this, Cooper. I say, hey, if you actually do it and you get arrested, I think that's fine.
I write the disclaimer copy that says, if you do, don't link us back to it.
Yeah, we got to get the lawyers to review that part of the episode for sure. Well, maybe we'll start breaking and entering law school edition. So that's how it works. New creative brief every couple of months, 3 months-ish. And this is the winning team. So Thas or Cooper, I think I want to kind of toss it up to either of you two to kind of, and Cooper, I know you were pretty involved in this as well. So maybe you can take the first stab on explaining what the brief was. What was the creative challenge this quarter that this team did an excellent job, best in show on? Can you kind of give us that? And then Thas, we'll hear your thoughts on it too.
Yeah, I think we try to get a wide range of creative challenges for the teams who are going to submit, where we've talked about the travel world in the past and a few other categories. But one that's super interesting right now is the world of TV and streaming. That's changing as we move forward, where it's back with a new name, TV streaming. It's expanding, it's contracting. You got bundling, you got price hikes, you got ads and different tiers. And it's a crazy world for people who want to consume content to understand and figure out the best spots to go. So the question that came to me and the team is, well, where does live TV live now if everything isn't live and you don't have to go at your scheduled time to watch whatever your show is or the news? So the desired behavior that we wanted from a target that we created called the social streamers is to have them view YouTube TV as the no-brainer when it comes to TV and streaming, and establish for our strategy YouTube TV as the cheat code for live TV streaming, and playing that into this Wild West ecosystem category that is streaming right now.
Yeah. And Thas, I remember our initial conversations when we first talked. You kind of teed us off. The entertainment category was something that you've been passionate about. Can you kind of explain that and the rationale behind this, with the catalyst for this brief, and then what you thought about the brief, and then we can kind of get into what they submitted.
Yeah, it's an interesting category right now. We were just having a conversation about this even at the agency, where we started in this world where streaming was the differentiator. It was the future. It was the new way of doing things. Broadcast is just this old, tired machine. And now it feels like we have so many streaming channels that it actually feels a little like broadcast again, because we have so many to choose from. It's now a matter of figuring out which content piece lives with which streaming service. So it's a really fragmented and and honestly, like a really complex place to exist as a brand. Because when the star of the show, quite literally, is the shows themselves, how do you establish a brand within that that is the purveyor of said content, but isn't necessarily the content itself? So, what I did find really interesting about the brief is it did attack that more directly. It wasn't about how you were going to integrate content and how content was going to be the thing that brings you in, but truly going into it as how do we start developing a brand that people can develop affinity to? Then you'll be able to actually pull people in with content and such. So I think that the challenge is one that is very real and one that is very much facing a ton of brands today, because YouTube TV is a great one and it's a big one. But there is a myriad of competitors out there as well. And we're all competing for those same eyeballs and that same amount of attention. Not to mention everything's going up in price. So things are getting even more competitive for that share of wallet. So I think it's a great brief. I think it's a really, again, a very timely one as well, particularly as we go into this new year. And so I was really excited to see where folks started to land. And just kind of my own experience. I've worked on YouTube for the last couple of years, not YouTube TV specifically, but I've worked in the brand for a couple years now. But I've worked with Google for over 12 years at this point. So it's a brand that's very close to me. So I love seeing people's new perspectives on what the brand is today, where it could go, and really start opening those doors. And I think that's what we really started to see with some of the entries that we had for this particular ask. And overall, we saw a really fun body of work. And I think it was really interesting to see the different ways that folks started to get at the brief that Cooper had crafted. So it was a really fun one. And I think, again, fun and timely, which is a good combination of things.
Yeah, we like that. And thank you so much for kind of like expanding upon that. It's complicated. It's a complicated ecosystem. And for students, and, we thought it was definitely a challenge that we want to get the best out of you. And this team did a great job. So who wants to be on the team here? Kind of kick us off and run us through what the amazing idea is. And before we dive in, we will have this, people listening now can go to our website, crowbarawards.com, www.crowbarawards.com, and you can see their submission on that website. So we encourage you, whether if you're on in your phone or on your computer, probably on your phone. Who listens to podcasts on their computer? Does anybody do that? No, me neither. So go ahead and check that out. I think that'll really help. But yeah, kick it away, team.
Yeah. I think that when we first got the brief, personally, I know that there's a lot of streaming services out there, Thas, as you said. And I kind of started with asking the people around me, like, what kind of streaming services do you use? And I know Juliette and Tara, you did that same thing. And we kind of found out through our research that the biggest competitor for YouTube TV was Hulu TV, because they have a lot of the same shows, a lot of the same live sporting events. But then the issue kind of became, how do we differentiate YouTube TV from Hulu TV? And we had so many meetings, hours and hours long. Yeah.
Meetings.
We was honestly such a great fun part of this, because we really got to dive into all the different ideas and all the different things that we could do and directions. But nostalgia kept coming back to us, because what separates YouTube TV from Hulu is that almost everyone has used YouTube before, especially this target demographic of social streamers. And so the one factor that separates that YouTube TV from Hulu was nostalgia. So that kind of became our big idea. I have a professor who, Peter Sherman, is a big proponent of big ideas. And our big idea just kind of turned into YouTube TV has grown up with you, especially this demographic. They had it when they were learning how to bake in their easy bake ovens. And now maybe they want to watch Food Network with YouTube TV. So yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot of prior research, asking family, friends. I was hounding my roommate who has YouTube TV, like, why do you have this? And she was like, bro, stop coming to my door. Like, I don't know why I have this. It's the family account. All right. um, but yeah, and just asking people like, what do you like about YouTube TV? What works for you? What doesn't? Do you have Hulu TV? Doing Google, looking at reviews, diving into Reddit, just trying to form a full analysis in the way that we could. We kind of did like a quote unquote SWOT analysis, finding the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, what we could do to find where YouTube TV stood out from everything else. Where does it come just above everyone else in this bar? And that is what Anna Wesley said, nostalgia. That is one thing that Hulu TV does not have because they're fairly new. Hulu is fairly new, but YouTube TV has YouTube, and YouTube has been around for a very long time. And everyone in the age demographic has grown up with YouTube in some format, whether it be they grew up as a child or a teenager or a young adult, just kind of getting into the business realm. YouTube has helped them in some format. And that's what we wanted to showcase, is that YouTube has been for you as a kid. Why don't you come back to YouTube? Come back to us as an adult. Trust us. You already trusted us then. Trust us now. And we kind of went with that and that motion and feeling of trust and just feeling that connection.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting how you mentioned, Thas, about the content. Like, we did have a period of time and a few meetings where we were like, let's focus on the content. Let's focus on like highlighting this show or this movie, or, oh, there are live sports. That's so cool. We could do this and this and this. And we were thinking about that. And then we were just sitting there and we were like, but if I saw this, I don't think this would make me want YouTube TV. So we were just talking and talking. We finally kept digging deeper and deeper until we hit, okay, why would we get it? And it's because we've grown up with people who, like social streamers, did use YouTube and now use YouTube TV. And one of the things, like one of the people we thought about was Emma Chamberlain, who used to post YouTube videos. And we would all watch those when we were younger. And now on YouTube TV, you can see her on red carpets at award shows. And it's just so interesting to see that. And like, that's like where the nostalgia really kicked in, where you're like, okay, that's why we're connected to this. That's why we would pick this over Hulu or any other live TV streaming option.
Love that. Great context here. Thas, did this speak to you when you're going through the submissions? I guess what stood out to you as you're combing through through all the submissions here?
Yeah, I think one of the things, I think that was the thing that really stood out was, I always like to say it's like a surprising, unsurprising idea, right? Where it's like the notion of nostalgia is actually quite a fresh take on what the streaming world looks like right now. Also, as somebody who may be a little bit older, talking about YouTube as nostalgia was a very it did make me smile when I first read that. Like, oh wow, YouTube nostalgia. That's a whole other offline. But I think the idea that it had the depth that I knew would be able to have legs off of, and you guys were able to demonstrate that through execution as well. I also think that, one of the things, and to your point about being able to articulate a big idea, that's a really important aspect of like how you shape and tell stories. I mean, it's not just about the actual story you are telling about a brand, but it's also the way you tell the story of an idea. And to me, that was really the big differentiator for your entry in particular, because you're really able to kind of, again, tell that story forward to back. It was one of the things that growing up as a strategist, I always thought about. It's like, as you start your narratives about selling an idea, selling a strategy, whatever it is, sometimes you have to be able to read it forwards to backwards and back to front. And it needs to still be able to make sense. And I think you were able to do that in a really, really nice and compelling way. I think being able to have clarity around like what an idea is one of the hardest things you'll do going into your agency life. And it sounds really easy. Like, of course I have an idea, but being able to stick to your idea as you get further into, tactical elements of things is it's a really challenging thing to do. And you were definitely demonstrating the ability to do that, which also was really great. And I think kind of overall, when you think about your idea, there was again, strategically, there were some really, really strong aspects of it. And I love that you had a really strong, like, kind of from to. So it's like, we're taking this brand from this and we're transforming it to this, which again, I think is really smart and it was a really interesting and fun way to bring that idea to life. It was really nice. I enjoyed it.
Cute.
I enjoyed. I think it's important for aspiring advertisers to learn about the setup and what would go into a campaign like this for portfolio reasons. So can you kind of walk us through the format of this campaign? I guess when I'm looking at the presentation, you did a nice job setting up the challenge, insight, and solution. Can you talk about like just the framework of what you guys did, the fundamentals here? Like, what did you want to make sure when you're talking? We have to include these different types of components, and how did you come up with those components for this campaign?
I think one thing we definitely wanted to include was definitely an experiential type of ad. So we went with a photo booth called the U booth, which the picture in the campaign, Juliette actually built that photo booth from like the ground up, which is so impressive to me still. And we wanted to do the U booth because we kind of took some inspiration from this photographer named Bryant. And he has this thing called Booth by Bryant, and lots of like influencers, social streamers, models, like will go take their photo in this photo booth and they will post it on social media. And it's to post that they look good, but it's also really good advertising for Bryant for more people to find him. So we were like, how can we include something that people will want to like take home and still look at, but it's not just an ad or pamphlet or something like that. So we came up with the photo strip, which is where the QR code and the YouTube TV is at the bottom. So people will be able to, they'll have it maybe on their mirror or sitting on their desk. They'll look at it and they'll just think of YouTube TV subliminally, like whenever they look at it, because it's still a picture of them and they still want to look at it. And then Anna Wesley, do you want to talk a little bit about the poll that we came up with? Yeah.
I think a huge trend in the industry is personalization, and people are going to listen to you and look at your ad way more if it's personalized. And so we came up with this idea that everyone who scans the QR code and takes a quiz will then be given a free episode of some show that they resonate with based on their answers to the quiz. So the quiz had several questions, such as, what kind of YouTube did you used to watch when you were younger? Because we wanted to bring it back to YouTube's brand and what they're known for by a lot of people. So when they scan that QR code on the booth, they can take the quiz, and then that quiz leads them to a free episode of a show that is on YouTube TV. So they get one free episode, and perhaps they'll want to watch more after that free episode. Yeah. And I mean, when Anna Wesley was saying how we use the poll to link back to the booth, to link back to nostalgia, that's kind of how we built our campaign. And that's why you can look at it from front to back and back to front. And it all still makes sense, is because we looked at every single component and said, how does this relate to the next? And how can we throw nostalgia here, here, and here? How can we utilize our keywords being like nostalgia and connection throughout our entire project? And when Anna Wesley was building billboards for the project, we all looked at it and made sure, like, hey, does this check out with everything that we want? Does this check off our insight? Does it check out our solution? And I think that's one of the most important things, is as you're going through it, just doing a little check-in with the group, like, just want to make sure all eyes are seeing the same thing I see, because sometimes with artwork, you can kind of get lost in it and copy, and you're like, I think I have the best solution here. And then everyone else is like, yeah. Mm-hmm. No. But yeah, I think that's how we built our campaign.
And Thas and Cooper too. I want to open up to you guys. I think, it starts with the big idea and shaping the narrative of the campaign, the story that you want to tell. From there, you have to execute. So any comments you have on the execution or even the fundamental strategy here, whether it's constructive criticism or some more praise from idea to execution, I would love to hear like some further thoughts about this campaign.
I'll start with that. I think there was some really, again, kind of speaking to the interconnectedness of the idea, I think was great. And I think that's something that I certainly would encourage you to kind of continue in how you see your work moving forward, because that's again, it's one of the hardest thing is making systems that connect to each other. Now, the other thing to think about, as which kind of is me talking out of both sides of my mouth, is also complexity. And I think sometimes as advertisers, creative strategists, all of the above, we sometimes make things really hard. And I think we have to remember consumers, like they're humans and people just like us, and they consume things that are easy and simple. And I think that's the one of the things just to think about is like remembering that people, even though we connect the dots, they may not. So what are the things that we can do to make it as easy as possible? And I think again, you all demonstrated the thoughtfulness to be able to say how it can happen. But then when we get into execution and the practicalities of all of it, that's where, again, as let's say you sold this idea in, there would be a lot of negotiation that comes in as sort of that next step was like, how do we take this idea and make it real? Because a lot of the making it real parts, unfortunately, is like, okay, well, that part's going to be a little harder to execute. So how can we reshape that without losing the integrity of the idea? And that's always why I always like to remind folks, like making sure you're so crisp and you're so clear about what the idea is, because it's going to get like sort of beat up a lot. And the most important thing is being able to stay true to what that original thought was. And it's real easy to get lost in it. So that's kind of talking about like how you would be able to extrapolate kind of where you are now conceptually into reality, which again, all things are possible. But I think it's always healthy to remember all those little pieces of simplicity or acknowledging that you actually are asking people to do a lot. But if it's worth it, they'll do it. And that's where we always say, if it's worth it, folks will participate, folks will follow that CTA all the way through. But it's our job as advertisers to build that value.
Yeah, I think one of the conversations we had was, should the quiz be on the photo booth? And then we were like, well, the line will be super long and everyone is going to just get bored of standing in the line. So should we have it on their phone? So yeah, definitely that's super important.
Yeah, and speaking to keeping the integrity of the idea, I know that the rest of the team can speak on this when we were discussing the idea of what we should do, the big idea, right? How did we end up on movies, Tara? You want to talk about that and how like that we kept circling back around?
Goodness, yeah. We literally, our first meeting, we kept going back to movies. How can we make this about the movies on YouTube TV? Because I really did not, I don't think any of us really knew how many movies were on YouTube TV. I don't think we had any idea. And I had to sit down. I had to be like, okay, guys, this is the brief. We have to stare at this brief. We have to read this line again and again, because we kept coming back to movies and we're like, we need to stay away. We need to start a new idea. And then we got more into nostalgia. But we stared at that brief. I can't tell you for how long, and just reread it and made sure we were really getting down to the actual idea of what it was asking. Because I found a lot of times we would start on an idea and it would be pretty much what the brief was asking, but it would not be 100% at all what it was asking. So I think that was something that we really learned in this process, was just keep the brief right there, read again and again and again, and just make sure your idea lines up perfectly.
I'm curious. So Cooper, for you, on this brief, would you call this a like more so of a marketer's brief? That's something like the client would send out, or was this more so a creative brief that the internal agency would send to the creatives?
We're definitely more in ad land creative brief, but in the target wanting to get a little bit, I mean, it's specific, but giving you enough information to actually go dig around without having to like create too much research. like to try and dig deeper into the actual audience. But yeah, as far as getting tight on our strategy, as far as like becoming the cheat code for TV streaming, you're not going to see that from the brand side. You're going to get much higher level business goals and even marketing goals. Then you take it one level deeper once you're getting into the creative side.
Yeah. That's always good clarification, like understanding that, and, where maybe like, diving even deeper in the strategy if needed. Because we do leave a little wiggle room on these intentionally. The idea is you have a strategist and like a creative team or somebody account strategy focused that can kind of tinker with it and maybe play off that brief. So I think that's important to note for like future listeners that are entering the next couple submissions. And we might play around with it too. We might actually give you a very specific direction. Who knows? What else? What else? I think if we, any other questions you have about your campaign specifically before we open it up to networking with Thas and hopefully breaking and entering?
Yeah. I would love to kind of know where you think that we can get stronger on. I think definitely all ideas can always be improved. So would love to kind of hear your take on that.
I really appreciated the ambition that you brought to the table on these. And I think that's a really great place to start. I think, again, whenever you're given more time and space, is just thinking about messaging more clearly. I think that's like something that's, again, from a strategic perspective, I love the way you framed up the idea. And I think that your tactics made a lot of sense relative to that idea. But as we think about like specific messaging and how you would craft the like language around that and like what those very, very clear and honestly like repetitive messages would be, I think that's something that is really important to all of this, because the reality is like we all love fun new ideas, right? And that's the way that is the joy of advertising, and that should be a big part of like what motivates us and what drives us to think. But without the proper messaging, it's just like a fun idea. And unfortunately, there's like a lot of fun ideas out there. So what we always need to do is be able to tie those very specific messaging points and really being able to articulate kind of what those are. What are the most, like you guys you did a bunch of research as well. Like what are the reasons why people are using YouTube TV, and utilizing some of that to help inform sort of that messaging strategy as well. So I think that would be a piece that I think could definitely, use more kind of time and effort in. But I think overall, you all did a really nice job of being able to utilize media as well in new ways. It's an old school thing to say, talk about integrated marketing campaigns, but that's truly what this is. You were able to use media in interesting ways. And again, it's just really getting clear on like that language part of it, and just really being sharp and incisive with what it is we're asking people to do, real sharp CTAs and all of that. It's just the important part. And honestly, it's the part in the industry when you've been doing this for a while that you probably end up spending a lot more time on, just because it's so imperative for our clients to be able to see like, how is your work going to make the changes or make whether it's building awareness, building trial, whatever it is. How is like what we're saying to people going to make them take action? Think of anything else. I was like, but the framing of it was really lovely. I appreciated the video too. The video assets are always fun and helpful, but no, I definitely appreciated the extra effort on all of those.
Tara, what did you think about the video process?
The video was, it was really fun. We were really efficient with it, actually, which is surprising. And then it was funny. We were filming one part where we were kind of like panning the video from one school to the next. And our little brother, he was like, well, why don't you do it like this? And he told us how to do it. We were like, okay, maybe that's a good idea. So we actually like changed some of our shooting and did it kind of what he was saying. And it was really funny. We had him like playing, like watching a YouTube video while he was playing video games. And it was just like, that's what he does every day. So it was really cool to it was really real for him to be there and experience that. So I think that was really a fun component of it for me.
Yeah. And I actually, it was because Tara took charge of the video editing, or not editing, but the video capturing once I started to get into the mix, because it was my brother and then also me being the older one. And my brother's adopted, but we look alike, at least from the back. And so he has long hair, I have long hair. We went with it. And so as Tara was like recording, I was like, "You getting it? There you go. Shot. Like, it was coming across." But yeah, so really, I mean, if my brother could have, joined the team, we loved him too. But he hasn't had like any sort of advertising experience, so we just decided to leave him out.
Maybe
Future
we'll have an extra pro guard for him. Maybe we'll get a
Like a half of one.
What are those mini ones called? Or
Yeah.
like a pry bar or a...
Like, when they like try to seat like the kid at the table, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's 2.5." We'll give them like half the crowbar, but only like the smaller end of it. And it can't be blue. It has to just be like
Okay.
Home Depot. Yeah. So.
We'll definitely talk about that. I think video submission, I think that's always a nice component. In these award shows, we've seen a couple of them win. Definitely not a mandatory, but if it aids the creative idea and is a good component and an extension of the campaign, then it doesn't hurt, right? If you guys, and what I'm hearing from the theme here is like the amount of learning and like the process that went behind this. And I hope that it was a great experience for you all. You learned some new tools. I love that you guys met up in person and, you were looking at the brief consistently. I mean, it's not too different essentially from what we ask in the agency world. I mean, teams getting together all the time and figuring stuff out and working on tough briefs. I hope, and Thas, you can, maybe you can attest, like, this is a great experience for you all.
Yeah, I'm really glad. And that's where, again, like being able to try new things. And I appreciated, like, again, the attempts at like video and being able to like create more cinematic things as well. It's not easy. None of this is easy. But being able to experiment and play, I think, are really important parts of getting into advertising in general is that spirit of curiosity and being able to try new things and being a little unafraid to maybe not crack it the first time or the second time or the 10th time, but just being able to kind of go into it with that full knowing that this is how creativity works. It's like sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not the thing that you want to do, or not the thing that you wanted to make, but that's okay.
Totally.
Yeah, it's something that you were kind of talking about the videos, that they win sometimes. It doesn't have to be a video, but to what you're saying, Thas, like adventurous spirit to like go and create a video like you just did and talk about it as passionately as you just did, like brings me back to when I was still at school and the first actual ad I ever was able to get created with the client was me and my creative partner running out into a field and grabbing a chicken and putting it on my uncle's head to see if the concept worked. It was for an egg company, but like that feeling and learning and going out and taking the time to build a mock-up, even if it's not like super highly produced or anything, to, like you mentioned, Gino, like further the creative idea and go through that process. Like never lose that, especially when you guys all have like broken in. It doesn't have to stick to the process. And sometimes like running out, getting your hands dirty and doing what you got to do to come up with something like that. And even if it doesn't work, is worth every rep of going and attempting something like that.
Yeah, I think sometimes you would get kind of caught, like when we were writing everything up, we were just like, "Oh, what if this isn't winning material?" And then I think eventually at the end of the day, it might have been Tara or Anna Wesley. It was just like, like it's just a learning experience. Like this is just to teach us. And at the end of the day, like come back to the big thing. Like we all just live on a floating rock. Like this is just life and we're living it. And, like it's about like learning with each other and community and just creating and doing the stuff and just getting in, like you just said, Cooper. Yeah, I don't know if Tara or Anna Wesley, you guys speak to that.
I think that what was really awesome was after we submitted it, we were like, okay, can't wait to do the next one. Like, I wonder when the next brief is coming out. Because we just had so much fun with it. And it was really amazing to work with such creatives and in a way that we aren't always able to in class, and in a way that we can get our hands a little bit dirtier than usual. So that's
March 1st. March 1st will be the next brief.
can't wait.
I love that. So I want to make sure now we're staying on track here. If there's any questions that you have for Thas and about career advice, breaking in, how do you do this for a living as you guys are graduating or looking for internships? The floor is yours. And also, hey, no stress here. We can do this offline if you guys are not comfortable or you want to like do something a little bit more private. We can definitely take it offline as well. So I just want to let you know there's no stress if you can't immediately think of any questions now.
I think we have some questions.
Run it.
Okay, perfect. Thas, so I wanted to ask you, when you first got into advertising, what was like one of the most surprising things to you that you kind of learned or you weren't really expecting to deal with in your role, or just like what kind of surprised you about the industry?
I think for me, there were actually probably more surprises than there would be for you all, because you are actually doing advertising before you go into advertising. I did not do that. I fell into advertising and coming out of my MBA program. So I was like an intern and I learned how like an agency operated through that internship, which was super helpful. But what I didn't appreciate at that moment was honestly sort of the deep collaboration that happens with clients. Because like we've been talking about earlier today, it's like, I think there's some mystique around sort of the creative agencies being able to like take the brief and be like, yes, we will be back. We will be back in a few weeks. We're going to have a beautiful architected thing and it's going to be perfect. You're going to love it. And everything's going to be right. It doesn't work that way. It's like some agencies, some big shops do work a little bit more in that kind of siloed way. I'm a smaller independent shop. We work with big clients, but we really do work alongside clients to craft things. So there are no big surprises or no big change. Like it's the reveal moments are fewer, which are good and bad. Like and I think that's something that's evolved over time as well. Just particularly in this post-pandemic world, I think we all just got very used to building together. So again, there's just like some of that suspense and drama sort of goes away. I also think that, the thing that's surprising about the industry is just how vast it is and the different personalities that you encounter. And, I love the industry, and it's something that it is my friends, it's my family. It's like, this is very much a part of who I am now. But it's not always been like that. And it hasn't been friendly to everybody in the same way as well. And so that's now, as I sit in a leadership position, like a big part of like how I evolve with the teams and how I evolve with my own people is just really understanding how we can make more people feel welcome in our industry.
That's awesome to hear. I feel like right now, as I'm thinking about the industry, like when you're talking about how you're like, it's deeply collaborative, that's so interesting to me. Because I sometimes feel like as advertisers, you have to keep everything separate and keep your process separate. And like, okay, there's one big presentation. I hope they like it. Like, that's kind of how it feels right now. So that makes me feel good to hear you say that it's really collaborative with the client.
It is. And again, every client is different. We happen to work in technology a lot. So Google and YouTube, and it is a deeply, deeply collaborative experience, because also you have to bear in mind a lot of these more modern brands are getting like information and data in daily, if not hourly. So if something changes, you don't have 2 weeks to like change it. You got to be able to like communicate really fast, make changes really quick, and kind of keep moving at the speed of technology, which is challenging and not the most fun for everybody. But definitely part of the deal.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the industry trends that you're really excited about or keep you up at night because the industry is changing so rapidly. And yeah,
I think the industry trends. There's so many exciting opportunities, and that's why I try to keep myself and my teams really focused on. It's like, because they're also like, there's like the boogeyman in the corner and all of the scary things that are happening in marketing and industry at large. So it's not just marketing, it is in marketing and advertising. It's like, it's sort of corporate culture in general is a bit of a, an uncertain place these days, which puts a lot of uncertainty on us. So, you see things in the news, it definitely trickles down to how we do our jobs as well, because it's all about dollars and cents on some level. So that's definitely stressful, and it keeps me up at night a lot, because a big part of my responsibility is making sure that our folks have great things to work on and are, excited and happy with what they're trying to produce. But I think that the big industry trends, when we look at things like AI, big part of like everyone's conversation, I'm sure everybody's talking about school now, it is figuring out the practical applications of it, how it actually interacts. It's not, and I am a person who grew up during the advent of like all the digital things. So I was like used to being oh, she's a social strategy person. Oh, she's like a mobile strategy person. Like I've done all now they're just like AI. The AI is not another way we can make like cool ads. Like it's not going to be like, and then we're going to have this AI bot that's going to be the coolest thing in advertising. I'm like, no, it's fundamentally going to shift how we do work. And that's what agencies and folks coming into the industry need to think about, is like, how do I use it as a tool? Honestly, it's one of the greatest that there are moments in time where it can really, really help you. And then there's moments in time where you realize, gosh, I am really excited that I have this creative brain of mine because I can use it for something that AI will never come up with. And that's that it's a tool for use. And I think that's what I'm really excited about, what it unlocks for us as an industry, because there's a lot of like not so exciting, not so brain intensive things that we can use AI to help us be better and more productive and all those things. So it gives us space to be more creative. Like that's the opportunity to me that I see in it. So that part's exciting. I love technology. I love new things. I'm a big old nerd when it comes to that stuff. So that really, really excites me.
That's like the goal. That's like the perfect AI response. Like that's like what everybody should be saying. And I think that I'm lucky enough, like the people I talk with, they all kind of are aligned with that. Like people that have been on my show, it's a tool. It's not going to take our jobs, maybe, but it definitely can assist us and free up time for the creativity that we need to use.
Also, I think if you've been in this industry or any industry for 15 plus years, you realize that there have been other tools. Like the fact that we are doing what we are doing right now was unheard of 10 years ago. This was really, really hard for me to get clients to do 4 years ago. We couldn't get a video call set up. We didn't have Google Docs. I was in the era of needing to print off PDFs at night. So my work life was, when I came into this industry, was completely different from what it is now. I mean, I would have to sit at the agency, wait until somebody was finished one part so that I could pick up the deck and do my part. And then we would print it all off for clients when they came in. It's a very different world. And I think AI is just like that, where it's like, it's this other incredible tool that allows us to do things exponentially quicker and like smarter, which is, now I look back and I remember we had like debates at agencies being like, should we use Google Docs? Like collaborative documents, that's a pretty big step, guys. Like, it was a thing. It was a full thing. I was on emails and this is all recent. It's not that long ago. It's within the decade. And we were having those kinds of debates because, again, it wasn't a proven tool in the same way that ChatGPT, Bard aren't proven tools yet, but they will, and they're going to get proven faster than ever. So I'm excited. It'll be fun. Like I said, it's all the same. History repeats itself 50,000 times, just with slightly different augmentations of what happened the last time.
Other career questions breaking in, because the AI one, that we can talk about that for a while too.
Oh yeah, I do want to say really quick about AI. That's actually something that UNC talks about quite often, because we are a university, and discussing like how does that work in a university environment, and specifically in advertising. Our at the advertising in Hussman, our professor Gary Kay talks about AI a lot, and he also talks and teaches us to develop our own opinions on all the new and upcoming things, but also to not be scared of them. And so we did also utilize AI in our campaign. I was able to use Midjourney to help me build out the photo booth because that's the most realistic photo booth I'm going to get, and then add all the components to it, right? But you have to be able to utilize all of that. And that's something that we're taught every day at school. But I did want to ask you, Thas, so speaking from your experience, what's one thing you'd say would make the most of our time while we were at school at UNC to become to further our careers, to be aspiring creative directors, strategists, planners? What do you say?
Gosh, I love school. Every time I see folks in school, it's like, oh, just I want to stay there forever. You can't stay there forever. Get yourself done. Don't get at school, get enough money. But I think the most important thing with school is really, and particularly coming off of the pandemic time, is really utilizing each other and spending time with other humans, building ideas. Like there is absolutely nothing that will replace that. Like that, the in-person time because there's a training that's required. And truthfully, we're seeing what happens when folks don't get that. Because right now we've got a little bit of a gap generation. And that timing it's like understanding how to make those kinds of connections and how to communicate, which you all are doing, I'm sure, seamlessly at this point. We're actually really challenging for folks a few years ago to be able to actually get that kind of experience, whether you're in class, spending time with professors, spending time with your peers, just really getting that experience and that richness, because that in between time, like if you do end up at an agency that is remote or partially remote, we're a hybrid agency. I worry every day, honestly, about my most junior folks because I grew up sleeping under desk. Don't want anyone else to have to do that. But there are things that I learned from under the desk or from being in the hallway at 2 a.m. that I would never have known and that has carried with me through my career. And so that time, and again, being able to just really be able to spend that time with one another because there's going to be so much time to do stuff on your own. You're doing your homework, you're prepping for exams, you're doing all of that. That's all. And that's a big part of your job, even when you're working. Like you're just literally creating things, but that is just one part of your job. The other part of your job is being a deeply interpersonal type person. It doesn't mean that you have to be a total extrovert. It just means you got to be able to communicate and have those like rich conversations, pull stuff out of people. All of that is stuff that happens mostly in real life. So that's the best advice I got.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to hear.
Okay, so for our last question, I think just kind of a fun question. Who is someone, either a person or a brand, that's inspiring to you and why?
Oh, a person or a brand. That's like really fun. So I'll answer it in one. A brand that I really love, and I'm completely biased because it's also one of my best brand, but is Squarespace. I think Squarespace has really been able to do really, really beautiful work, tell beautiful stories. It's top of mind for me today because they just launched some work with Rick Rubin, who obviously is this kind of creative guru. But it's also a very good friend of mine who's their chief creative officer. And watching that brand, because again, it's a good friend of mine. I've watched them for 11 years now, just to kind of be able to go from this kind of cool startup that you make websites on, which are like, yeah, it's important, to be this like kind of full brand. And a brand in like the most kind of elegant sort of way of like describing what a brand is. Like everything from not only the kinds of work they create, but the product itself. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I always say that product experience is stunning. And
Beautiful.
it's because, again, there are incredible folks behind the scenes who care so deeply about creating a very smart, beautiful brand. And then also just the ability to tell stories through what is, again, one of the most creative platforms. Like, you're telling the story of people who are using Squarespace to build their businesses. So I think it's a really great brand, really beautiful work, and inspires me even though it's a friend.
I'm I'm glad you said that because I am currently needing to build a new website, so I'll have to check out Squarespace for that.
Some good ones.
We use it for all of our websites. We love it.
I always relay, like, and they have a great product, and they're very friendly to creative people, because they also, again, back to the point of brands that understand their audience. They understand creative people. They understand what inspire creative people, and they're able to not only create tools for it, but also create communications for it.
Beautiful. All right, I'm going to wrap this up here. I want to thank you guys all for doing this, and congrats again to the Blue Crowbar winning team. University of North Carolina, shout out. Joe Bob Hester, I just visited in the fall, and all the amazing people over there. Thas, thank you so much for judging. It's not easy, and it's a lot of submissions, a lot of time, and you're very thoughtful. So we couldn't be more grateful for you as well.
Now, thank you for having me. This is fun.
Great. Then everybody can go to listening. Once again, we'll wrap it up with the last thing. Go ahead and go to crowbarawards.com. Check out the winning work. Recruiters, you know what to do. I'll put it in the upfront as well, but it's time to hire these peeps. Let's get them jobs, break and enter.